Have you ever wondered how a small strip of land, barely the size of New Jersey, could change the destiny of empires, religions, and civilizations? How a people, scattered for centuries, persecuted and nearly annihilated, could rise again, against all odds, to build one of the most advanced nations in the modern world? This is not just the story of a country. It is the story of survival against extinction, of prophecy and promise, of exile and return. From the ancient city of Jericho, older than the pyramids, to the burning ruins of Jerusalem under Roman siege, to the horrors of the Holocaust, and finally, to the rebirth of Israel in 1948. This is the entire epic history of Israel, a journey through time, faith, and mystery that still shapes our world today. Our story begins on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, in a land once known as Canaan, a crossroads of empires, a meeting place of merchants, warriors, and prophets. To the west, the endless Mediterranean, gateway to Europe. To the east, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. To the south, the deserts of Arabia. To the north, Anatolia and the Caucasus. Here, in this narrow corridor of fertile plains and rugged hills, stood the ancient city of Jericho. Archaeologists tell us Jericho's walls rose more than 11,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on Earth. Imagine that, while mammoths still roamed in parts of the world, Jericho already had watchtowers. Canaan was never just geography, it was destiny. The Phoenicians traded here, spreading the alphabet that still shapes our words today. The Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, and countless others passed through, each leaving their mark. But in this land of many gods and many nations, something new and revolutionary was born: monotheism, the belief in one God. The story tells of a man named Abraham leaving the city of Ur in Mesopotamia, guided by a divine voice, carrying a promise that his descendants would inherit this land. His grandson Jacob, later called Israel, had 12 sons, 12 tribes that would one day give a nation its name. Yet destiny was never easy. A famine drove Jacob's family into Egypt. There, his people were enslaved, and centuries of oppression began, until a man named Moses, from the banks of the Nile, rose to lead them out. The Exodus became not just history, but the heartbeat of an identity, a people chosen, wandering through deserts, bound by law and covenant, searching for a promised land. And when they finally returned to Canaan, they did not find peace, but conquest, battles, and a fragile unity that would set the stage for kings, temples, and exile. Out of chaos came a kingdom. Around the 11th century BC, the 12 scattered tribes of Israel finally united under their first king, Saul. He brought them together against the Philistines, a sea people with iron weapons and fearsome warriors. Yet Saul's reign ended in tragedy on the slopes of Mount Gilboa, his army crushed, his sons slain. Then rose a shepherd boy, the youngest son of his family, a boy who once faced down a giant named Goliath with nothing but a sling and a stone. His name, David. David became the king who built a nation. He captured Jerusalem, making it his capital, a city destined to echo through eternity. His reign was remembered as Israel's golden age, but it was his son, Solomon, who gave Israel its crown jewel, the first temple built around 957 BC. Rising from Mount Moriah, this temple became the very heart of Jewish worship, housing the sacred Ark of the Covenant. Yet wealth and power carried a heavy price. Heavy taxes and forced labor soured the people. And when Solomon died, the kingdom split in two: Israel in the north, Judah in the south. The split left them weak, The northern kingdom fell first, conquered by the Assyrians in 722 BC. Its tribes vanished into history, the legendary 10 lost tribes of Israel. Judah survived a little longer, but in 586 BC, the Babylonians stormed Jerusalem, burned the temple, and carried its people into exile. For the Jewish people, it was more than a military defeat. It was a crisis of faith. Could a nation without land, without a temple, without a king, still survive? The answer was yes. In Babylon, prophets like Ezekiel and Jeremiah told the people that God's covenant was not broken. Faith could live in words, in law, in memory, and so Judaism transformed from temple worship to a religion of scripture, prayer, and community. Centuries passed. Persians allowed them to rebuild a second temple. The Greeks came under Alexander the Great, spreading Hellenistic culture. The Maccabees rose in revolt, reclaiming the temple in a victory still celebrated today as Hanukkah. But then came Rome. In 70 AD, after a bloody revolt, Roman legions besieged Jerusalem and burned the second temple to the ground. Only one wall remained, the Western Wall, still standing today. Another revolt under Bar Kokhba was crushed in 135 AD. Rome renamed the land Palestina, and Jews were banned from Jerusalem. Thus began nearly 2 millennia of exile, the Jewish diaspora. Across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, Jewish communities endured cycles of tolerance and persecution. In medieval Spain, under Muslim rule, they experienced a golden age of learning and poetry. But in Christian Europe, they faced crusader massacres, blood libels, and expulsions. In 1492, the same year Columbus sailed west, Jews were expelled from Spain, scattering once again. Yet through centuries of wandering, one dream remained. Next year, in Jerusalem, by the 19th century, nationalism was reshaping the world. Poles, Serbs, Hungarians, nations without states, rose to reclaim their homelands. And among them, Jews too dreamed of return. A Hungarian journalist named Theodor Herzl turned that dream into a movement. Zionism. In 1897, he declared, "At Basel, I founded the Jewish state." He was right. Within 50 years, it would come true. The 20th century changed everything. In Europe, anti-Semitism grew darker, more violent. Pogroms in Russia burned Jewish villages. And then came the unthinkable, the rise of Nazi Germany. The Holocaust murdered 6 million Jews, men, women, and children, systematically exterminated in camps like Auschwitz and Treblinka. It was humanity's darkest chapter, and it convinced Jews everywhere. Without a homeland, survival itself was impossible. Meanwhile, in Palestine, then under British control, Jewish immigration grew. Tensions exploded between Jews and Arabs. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition the land into 2 states, one Jewish, one Arab. Jews accepted, Arabs rejected. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the birth of the State of Israel. The very next day, 5 Arab armies invaded. Outnumbered and outgunned, the new nation fought for its life. By 1949, Israel had survived and even expanded its borders. But at a cost, over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced, beginning a conflict that still burns today. From that moment, Israel's history became a constant struggle between war and survival, diplomacy and defiance. The Six-Day War of 1967 brought astonishing victories, but also new dilemmas as Israel occupied the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. The Yom Kippur War of 1973 shattered illusions of invincibility, and the decades that followed saw uprisings, peace accords, assassinations, and endless negotiations. Through it all, Israel transformed, militarily, economically, technologically. From draining swamps to becoming a startup nation, Israel is now home to world-changing innovations, from cybersecurity to medical breakthroughs. Yet, one truth remains. The central mystery of Israel is unfinished. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues, Jerusalem's fate is contested, and peace in the Holy Land, after thousands of years, still feels just out of reach. Here lies the paradox. Israel is one of the most advanced nations on earth, yet one of the most contested. It is a homeland reborn, yet forever at war to defend itself. It is both a miracle and a controversy. For Palestinians, the founding of Israel is remembered not as liberation, but as the Nakba, the catastrophe. More than 700,000 people driven from their homes, entire villages erased from the map. Generations still live in refugee camps, carrying keys to houses that no longer exist. For Israelis, every war has been existential, a fight not for land, but for survival. From the Six-Day War to the Yom Kippur surprise attack, from suicide bombings to rocket fire from Gaza, each threat reignites the memory of exile and the shadow of the Holocaust. And then there is Jerusalem, the city of David, Solomon, Jesus, and Muhammad, a city sacred to 3 religions, yet claimed holy by 2 peoples. Can one city ever be the capital of peace when it has been the battlefield of faith for 3,000 years? The conflict is not just political. It is spiritual, historical, emotional. Every stone, every wall, every scrap of land carries memory and meaning, and that is why solutions so often fail. But there is another mystery, one that history cannot fully explain. How has this people, scattered for 2,000 years, persecuted across continents, nearly erased by genocide, survived, and not only survived, but thrived? What is it that gives Israel its resilience, the covenant of faith, the memory of suffering, or something deeper still? This is the unresolved question at the heart of Israel's story, and it is why this history is not finished. The history of Israel is not just about borders and battles. It is about the endurance of memory. It is about a people who carried their homeland in their prayers for 2,000 years, and then, against all odds, rebuilt it. It teaches us that survival is never guaranteed, but resilience can defy destiny. That faith, whether in God or in the human spirit, can outlast empires, and that the deepest wounds of history can still shape our world today. But it also leaves us with questions. Can there ever be peace in the Holy Land? Can 2 peoples, bound to the same soil, find a way to share it? Or will the land of prophets remain forever divided by walls, borders, and blood? The story of Israel is unfinished, and perhaps that is why it captivates us so deeply, because we are living in its next chapter right now. If you found this journey through time meaningful, help us continue telling these stories. Like this video, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to History in Motion for more tales of survival, mystery, and the human spirit. History does not belong to the past. It moves through us, and together, we bring it to life.